תודה רבה, גיל. ההרצאה שלך מתכתבת עם ההרצאה הבאה מדוקטור מיכל וקרט וולקין, דירקטור של Energy Storage בנאסא, שתדבר איתנו על Success Factors in Leading Edge Technologies.
טוב, תודה. אני אדבר באנגלית, כי ביקשו אני אדבר באנגלית. So, thank you everyone. Thanks for the introduction. The title of my talk is Success Factors in Leading Edge Technologies. And I would really want to talk about my personal experience in the market of innovations, or the lesson I learned while working in innovation in Cleantech for the past 15 years. And I wanted to start with a movie that I've watched recently that really inspired me to talk about innovation. I don't know if you've seen 100-Foot Journey, any of you? Yes. It's a great movie. It's fun. I love the photos. I love the food. It tells the story of an Indian guy. He's actually a cook, and he lives in a far, far away village in India. For some reason, he relocates to Provence, and he meets this beautiful chef, and together they start cooking, and they mix Indian spices with very traditional old French cuisine, which wins the cook, who becomes a famous chef, 2-star Michelin in a restaurant that he's working at, and of course a beautiful girlfriend, and they live together happily ever after. So the lesson that I've learned, or what I'm taking from the movie, is not just the food and the beautiful views, but it's also that embedding new disciplines into old industries is really what innovation is all about. So what's innovation? What is it all about? I really think that people don't use the word innovation the way they should use it. Innovation is not necessarily an invention. It's not a scientific discovery or a mathematical proof. Innovation is really the process of changing the world, or making the world a better place in a very meaningful way. Finding the applications for those inventions, for the scientific discoveries, and getting ourselves challenged and about the way we think, about the things we try to invent. During my PhD studies, which started in 1996, I encountered a lot of examples of innovations and inventions. My PhD studies was focused on nanotechnologies, and more specifically I was looking at silicon nanocrystals and the light emission from those nanocrystals. One of my first and most important discoveries was that silicon can emit light in the whole spectrum from red to blue. And by the way, silicon is in the bulk cannot emit light, just when you go to the nanoscale size. And the light emission, the wavelength, pretty much depends on the size of the nanocrystal, the way we passivate the surface, and the quantum state. This discovery was very well accepted by the scientific community, and it was clearly a nice invention to have. 20 years later, Intel is announcing that they're developing the next generation optical-based computing. I don't know if you heard about it, but this is one of the components that they're talking about together with Corning. They're developing the next optical interconnect, and they'll be able to transfer data in a rate of over 1.6 terabytes per second. This is definitely changing the way we look at computers, changing the way we're going to use computers, and this is clearly an interesting innovation. So before we start talking about success factors, let's just see what are the major challenges today for entrepreneurs when they're working on clean tech innovation. And these are just a few examples. Obviously, there are many more. It's some things that I've seen. In solar, we're trying to find the third-generation materials to make solar cells more efficient, the quantum efficiency to go higher. In wind, and we've seen an interesting talk today, we're trying to get turbine blades and gearboxes to be more efficient, to withstand very strong aerodynamic forces. In terms of analysis, there's a lot of work going on now on that. We're trying to find the value of electron. We're trying to see how the energy market can be shared, how we can sell and buy electrons from each other. And for that, we definitely have to analyze and understand what's the value of electron. And policymakers are looking at that, innovators are looking at that, and obviously utilities are looking at that. Other areas are bioenergy, farming is very strong and interesting. Lighting or powering buildings, green buildings, much more efficiently and obviously improving the adoption of green transportation, which I'll talk about in more details later. So we have a lot of problems to solve, and everywhere and anywhere. I think the key question is, where do we innovate? I've been working in the past 18 years in the US. I moved to Israel less than a year ago. And I was lucky enough to work with amazing people, with innovators, with scientists, with engineers, in small companies, in startups, in academia, and also in large corporations. I don't believe that innovation is a corporate thing, but I do believe that corporates know how to do innovation because they think differently. Just a few examples are research labs such as Xerox PARC, government agencies such as NASA, and obviously non-for-profit organizations like the Gates Foundation. And I work with the three of them, and I'll talk about it in more details. So what are the best practices for success? And I was asked to gather a few practices. I'm sure that there are many more. The first one relates to subject matter expertise, which I believe is not a must for innovation. New industries are formed, and the entrepreneurs that form those industries don't necessarily know what they're doing at the beginning, which is totally okay. Google, for example, didn't know anything about media. SpaceX, they didn't know anything about rockets. And Tesla didn't know much about cars. But look what they did today. They showed us that they could come and advance technologies with major changes. And they haven't been really looking at incremental improvements, but they're looking to make it big and new. And just talking about Tesla, did any of you drive a Tesla? Yes. So you're the lucky ones. And me too. I spent a month in the US this summer, and I had a Tesla parking in my garage, and that was an amazing experience, I have to say. This is truly the car of the future. It's not just the very traditional reasons, such as environmentally friendly car, less very efficient energy. It's simply the driving experience. It's totally amazing. It's the tech feeling that you have when you go and you sit in the car. The user interface is just fascinating. It feels like you have a big iPad in front of you on the dashboard. When you walk to the car turns on. You don't even have to hold your keys, and the locks is open by itself. And when you leave, the cars will turn off, and the doors would lock. This is where really innovation comes to play, and Tesla is, I think, the greatest example. So the second success factor which I chose was relating to taking risks and believing in a better future, believing in your innovation, and pretty much thinking about what the technology can do in the future and not what it cannot do in the future. And the judges had very interesting discussion about it right now. So just one example is Alexander Bell, when he made the first phone. None of the telegraph companies actually believed that he could send voice over distance. But he insisted, he believed in the future, and look where we are today. Another example is batteries for electric cars, which is a topic that is very close to my heart. Before 2009, not many people cared about batteries for electric cars. I want to say 2008, 2009. The range of those batteries was less than 100 kilometers, and the price was over $1,000 per kilowatt hour. It was very tough to convince investors that the price is going to drop. But companies such as Renault, Better Place, Nissan, Mitsubishi, BMW, and a few others took the risk. They took the chance. They developed cars around those batteries that didn't make that much economic sense. And look where we are today. In 2014, we have batteries with a range that is higher than 300 kilometers and prices that are less than $300 per kilowatt hour. And it's only been, 5 years. Tesla's announced their giga battery factory. They're going to manufacture hundreds of thousands of batteries a year that are going to be assigned mostly for cars, but also for energy storage and the grid. So I think the key point here is innovate, keep trying, and take a risk. Not many people make it the first time, but it's still okay to try. A third step, success factor, which I think relates to thinking inside the box. I don't know if any of you read the book, which is called Inside the Box. It's a great book. And it talks about how people can make innovation thinking about what they have, not about what they don't have, as opposed to outside the box, which has been the trend in the past years. So it's a little bit of a different concept. And I think that a key question is defining what is your box, what do you have? Taking chances, but still make a smart decision and innovate from practical things, not too crazy. One of the examples, I think the greatest example, is Instagram, which is actually a very simple reduction of Facebook. You reduce the text and then there you go. And another one, again, is Tesla. Tesla is using the small 18650 battery cells. These are the old consumer electronic cells, battery cells. They're cheap, they're available. So many companies make them. The whole IP is around packaging those cells as opposed to building new format cells, battery cells that all the other companies did. And I want to say that they are the most advanced today on the market in terms of price and in terms of the range that they provide to their cars. A fourth success factor is the way businesses can do business differently. I don't know if you heard about the concept. I heard it in a talk by Carl Bass from Autodesk. And he's talking about making fundamental changes to the economics of businesses, and Kickstarter is a great example. The guy who started Kickstarter was an industrial designer, and he wanted to design a wristband for the iPad Nano. He wanted to raise $15,000. He had some issues raising the money, so he went online, and 2 months later he got more than $1 million, which is a great achievement for everyone, because that company raised more than $100 million so far for different companies. Another example for business unusual is NASA, and more specifically NASA's innovation strategy. So when NASA is looking to innovate, they don't just look inside to what they have, and they have amazing scientists, and I worked with some of them. They're actually approaching the public. They're approaching different labs. They're approaching research centers and academia, and also the industry. When they wanted to design the lunar lander, they worked with Moon Express, which is a young company with smart and young engineers. When they wanted to design the next generation energy storage system, they started a competition which is called the Night Rover Challenge, and I was part of that competition. They approached the public. Another success factor, just going very fast and briefly, which I believe is very relevant for Cleantech, is going nano, and it's also a topic that is close to my heart. Going nano, like everyone knows, it's about the size of the particles that we use. It's about the way we fabricate them. It's about the cost of the materials that we fabricate, and of course it's about the properties of these materials, because they're very different. Going nano means making high-quality things at lower prices, and there are a few examples, such as quantum dots for solar cells or battery electrodes for electric cars. Printing materials is it's a great trend today. Printing all type of materials. You can print plastics, you can print semiconductors, you can print biological materials. You can print three-dimensional, such as different components in space, if you don't have them. And you can print computers into your clothing. So that's a lot to innovate at. And then the last one is making sensors. There are many, many more, but making sensors just becomes very trendy. Sensors that could be biological sensors, it could be optical, it could be electrical. Sensors that could tell you or your wife where you are. It could sense how you feel, how fit you are, what's your blood level, sugar blood level. And the sensor will be embedded in different smart devices, and I'm sure that some of you already saw Apple's announcement yesterday about the iWatch, which is full of sensors. They're becoming like Switzerland. They're watching us, giving us the money. And, the last rule that I wanted to discuss is actually making new rules. It's the best way for best practices in Cleantech, because Cleantech is a new industry. It's totally new. And for new industry, we need to design new rules and break the old ones. One of the new rules is generating or installing community energy storage. In my opinion, this is a big rule. Both community energy storage, so houses, and then commercial buildings, just to accommodate all the renewable energy that is growing everywhere on the grid. And obviously utilities don't like it, but you don't really need to listen to them. You need to break the rules and just go in and install those batteries, because it's happening. And in California, for example, there's a new mandate for I don't remember how much megawatts or gigawatts of energy on the grid. I had some...
20% of their...
Yeah, okay. 20% is going to be stored in batteries, and I think 50% will be owned by utilities and the other 50% by personal, private owners, which is companies and corporations. The second rules to be broken is regarding shared energy economy. And with so much distributed resources, I think this is time to really share the energy market. You can think about Uber, you can think about Airbnb, the way they disrupted the taxi and hotel markets. This is the way to disrupt the energy market, is just to buy and sell electrons from each other. And you can imagine a farmer having a solar farm. He can sell you his electrons if it's cheaper than what the utility will offer you. It's time to break the rule and start modeling this economy. And a few companies are already doing that, and a lot of research labs and government labs in the U.S. Charging cars instead of fueling cars is a new rule, and we've already been there for a few years, but it's taking over kind of slowly. And the last one is safe nuclear fusion, which sounds like an oxymoron, but there are a few companies and of course government labs that are working on that. I've actually seen an interesting company in the previous Cleantech Open competition that I was judging in California. It was last year, and they won the generation section. And what they're trying to do is design a plasma at low temperature reaction, and they're claiming that they can do it in a track that is mobile, so that you can pretty much place it anywhere you want, just to compensate on grid fluctuations. So after discussing the key success factors, and again there are many more, I wanted to talk about a few places that I worked at, which are innovation centers, and why they're successful. So the first one is Xerox PARC. Xerox PARC, hopefully all of you know Xerox PARC. They're located in the heart of the Silicon Valley in Palo Alto, and they are pretty famous for a few of the innovations that they made. Not necessarily financially famous, because it happened that other companies licensed or got the IP and made a lot of money out of it, but they did innovate. And the mouse was invented there. The Windows was invented there, and Steve Jobs actually talked about how he got the idea from PARC in his book. And when I joined PARC, we worked on a project which is called nanoliter. It's a nanoliter chip for drug discovery application, and my role was to design a sensor, thermal sensor, which could sense temperature variation in the order of 10 to the minus 6 Celsius, and that was in 2003. For drug discovery application. So you actually react protein with drugs, and you see how strong the reaction is. We also worked on flexible electronics, on jet printing, and a lot of other innovations. So why was PARC so successful? I think location is important in the heart of the Silicon Valley, where there's so much innovation. It's right near Stanford, so the great talent is right there. PARC has a great brand name, so scientists from all over the world applied, and I had amazing postdocs in my team from Germany, from China, from Europe, from Israel, from everywhere. Actually, not as much from Israel. It was me and another person. I think that working together with interdisciplinary team helps you innovate. So scientists that are electrical engineers, software engineers, biologists, chemists all work together in one team. Having an IP attorney that accommodates you from the first day of your journey at PARC definitely helps. And I think the key point is working very close to industry. So understanding what are the problems in-house of those big corporations in the US and trying to help them solve it. A second place that is very interesting innovation center is NASA, and more specifically the Centennial Challenges Office, which I work with. It's actually a project that started in 2005, and it was initiated by the Office of the CTO, and the idea was to engage the public in the process of innovation that are both in the interest of the nation and of NASA. And they incentivize prizes to generate revolutionary solutions. So awards are given only to the teams that actually can make it happen. The latest challenge is the competition that I worked on, which is called the Night Rover Challenge, and it's a joint venture between NASA and Cleantech Open. And what we're trying to do is catalyze advances in energy storage technologies for space rovers mostly, but also for astronauts' suits, for satellites, for space stations, and so on. So how is NASA doing it? How come they're so successful? They have a very structured process. So first of all, deciding on the prize, and that specific competition had a $1.5 million prize first. The mission is defined very well, and here we were looking for batteries that would actually last for 2 weeks. Why do we need batteries that would last for 2 weeks in space? Those batteries would power the space rovers during the darkness time. So in the moon, for example, you have 2 weeks of sun, 2 weeks of darkness. So during the nighttime, during the daytime, the rover would operate through energy that would be accumulated from the solar panels. But at night, you have to use the battery and all the energy that was stored over there. And they don't have something like that. They have rovers that are operating on Mars, but the day and the night are much shorter there. So nothing for 2 weeks. The process is well structured. We have a steering committee, defines the technical spec, then we advertise it to the community. We have concept submission deadline, very similar to this competition, and the team submit their application. It takes about a year to design the system, and then we test the system at NASA, and we decide who the winners are. Usually what happens is that nobody wins the first year, and it's very common for NASA, neither the second year, sometimes the third year, sometimes the fourth year. And we keep moving the prize, and the teams work on the challenge. But this is the way they make process. They invented Space Glove this way, Space Elevator, even SpaceX, which you probably all heard about, started from such a challenge. And the last example that I wanted to give is an interesting project that I worked with the Gates Foundation. It's totally different. It's an amazing experience. And the Gates Foundation, like you all know, is funded by the Gates couple, Warren Buffett. They mostly work in challenges that are extreme poverty, poor health in developing countries, and America's education system. So they actually work on those three challenges. Why are they so successful? First of all, great collaborations. They don't do the work in-house. They manage the project from in-house. They have amazing teams, but they actually approach big companies and they work together to generate the products that they're working on. And they have unlimited funding. It is limited, but it's big, but they know how to structure the budget very well. They get funding from other government resources. And again, it's the project management team, and it's good cause. There's a lot of goodwill. People want to help, and people support them. This is the project that we worked on. Just in a few words before we finalize the talk, the project was relating to Second Life EV batteries, and let me set the concept. The Second Life of batteries means that when the battery has 80% of its energy capacity, which usually it's after 5 or 10 years. It's no longer available, or it cannot be used for cars because it doesn't give enough range. So what's happened is that the batteries retire, and that's it. You lost whatever you invested in the battery. And what Better Place, at that time I was at Better Place, what we were trying to do is to find a market for those batteries at Second Life. And I wrote a blog, and I tried to propose different applications, and the blog was published in the U.S., and it kind of got into one of the project managers' attention in the Gates Foundation. A week later, he contacted me, and he said, let's do this project together. So that was really amazing how they dig their talents. And the idea was to use the batteries, the Second Life battery, take them apart, and the solar installation to replace this bucket. And the bucket is what those poor women are using to irrigate the fields nowadays in Africa. They have no education, they have no time to go to school, they have no money, they cannot take care of the kids unless the kids join them in school. And in a dry year, the local well doesn't provide them enough water to water the fields, and they could very well die out of hunger. So what we're trying to do is to add the battery in the solar panel and to be able to provide automated irrigation system and to flow this water in pipes that come from farther away reservoirs. And that way to improve their diet and obviously the income in those rural sub-African locations. So I started the talk by defining what innovation is, and I said that it's about making the world better in a meaningful way. Hopefully this was a good example to finish with. I just wanted to say that innovation is everywhere, but there's a lot going on here in Tel Aviv, in Israel in general. And I think it's just the challenge of all of us to go and innovate and make it successful. So thank you very much. If you have any questions.